best.
Thank you very much, John and Dry Creek Vineyards, for being part of the 2020 Glunz virtual tasting hall, where every day in the month of September, we have a new winery hosting the tasting hall and presenting to all of our awesome customers. And all of our customers are getting these great packets, which never works with a digital background, but with these beautiful 2-ounce bottles. Mine already half consumed from earlier this morning when I was drinking with Kim, but you know, that's how we roll. But thank you all very much for taking time and the opportunity. As you know, we've got some great ones coming up. Nothing that compares, of course, to the presentation you're about to see with Mr. John Doxson. John Doxson is the Global Director of Sales for Dry Creek Vineyards, and I will spotlight you, my friend, and let you run.
All right. Thanks, Joe. We're happy to be part of this. You can see, if I'm shivering a little bit here, I'm coming to you from our cellar. You can see those concrete walls behind me. And it's Tim, our winemaker, has it especially cold today. I think he's trying to give me a little bit of the business because I'm asking him to join us a little later, right in the middle of harvest. So I've got a little fan on me here to keep it a little bit warmer, but wanted to say thank you to Joe Jr. and the rest of Team Glunz and all of our friends there for joining us today. We're happy to be part of this. We were really honored to be part of one of the inaugural, I think, events of this kind back in May with Glunz, and it turned out to be a tremendous success. So it's nice to see some of you on the call again today from that time, and it really inspired us back then to you know, keep innovating, you know, along with our distributor partners and keep trying to stay connected with our customers. So I know this isn't easy, not ideal, but we really appreciate you taking time out of your day and joining us here for tasting through some current vintages. This is important for us because we think our story is a great one. I think every day, those of us in the industry, you know, are always kind of shocked to read, you know, what we call another one bites the dust list of wineries that have sold and distributors that have sold. Joe, don't get any ideas. To you know, the larger conglomerates, the multinational beverage companies, or worse yet, you know, some tech billionaire that decides he wants to get into the wine business, or he or she wants to get into the wine business. We, you know, are proudly family owned and family run, have been since 1972, when we were the first winery since Prohibition to set up shop here in what is now called Dry Creek Valley. Back then, let's see if I can do this. As Joe said, I don't have Sarah with me today, but I think I can handle this. Back in 1972, when we were just getting started, this was prune orchards where I sit today, and where the winery is, were prune orchards that were not planted to vines. There were a few old vines in plantings left from pre-Prohibition, but a lot of the area really hadn't been touched as far as grapes are concerned in decades. And Dave saw here what reminded him of his first love in the wine business, which was the Loire Valley. That was his inspiration when Dave Stair, our founder, who still lives here on property, and thankfully we see him almost every day still here at the winery. But when he was falling in love with wine, he was living in Germany, working as an engineer, and fell in love with the wines of the Loire Valley. And what he saw here in Dry Creek Valley was potential for similar varietals to do well. And Sauvignon Blanc was the early varietal that really piqued his interest. So we were the first to plant that varietal here in Dry Creek Valley. Mondavi had famously coined the term Fume Blanc a few years before us over in Napa, but we were the first to use that term here in Dry Creek. And it was a nod to the Puy Fume, to the Loire Valley Sauvignon Blancs that inspired and piqued Dave's interest and continues today. Chenin Blanc was the other varietal that we planted way back when, and both of those wines we'll taste today. And I think we'll see a little bit of the former, the Sauvignon Blanc, come in on the crush pad here currently. There's Dave today standing right outside of the door I'm coming to you from, right behind that cellar door. And this is Dave's daughter, Kim, who runs the winery today, and her husband, Don. He still has that amazing mustache, which I'm trying really hard to emulate during COVID times. I can't quite get there. But her husband, Don, is our vineyard manager, and they have run the winery for about the last 10 plus years. And it's really under them that we were able to not only continue some of the great traditions that were established by Kim's dad, but even also to move from that into new frontiers. And Cabernet has done even better over the last 10 years, especially. So we haven't forgotten where we came from. We've stayed true to who we are in terms of Chenin Blanc and Fumé Blanc especially, but we also haven't rested on our laurels. So we're really excited to share our story today because it's a special one, not only for Dry Creek Valley, but I think the whole industry, as mentioned, as we've seen so many wineries choose to get, way too big or sell out, unfortunately. We love to be one of the last true family-owned wineries here of our size. And I think we'll get right into some of the wines, so I have some time to share with you some of the things happening out at the crush pad today. So we are in your little kits that you have in front of you. You should have Chenin Blanc and Fumé Blanc. I think, yeah, perfect. Thank you, Joe. We will taste Chenin Blanc first. And Chenin is the only wine that we make outside of the Dry Creek Valley. So Chenin for us comes from one particular vineyard, the Wilson Ranch, kind of due east of us, over in the Clarksburg AVA, south of Sacramento, past Napa, an area still cooled by the Sacramento Delta breezes, but with this clay, well-drained soil that has a more clay component than we have here that makes it ideal for that varietal. So we've been growing Chenin. Dave did plant some Chenin here back when we got started, but really for the last 30 years, this varietal is being grown by us and many others over in the Clarksburg region. And it comes from this one vineyard that we've found to be very special and perfect and unique for this varietal. It's a wine that really has stayed true to its Loire root inspiration over the last almost 50 years. You'll witness today our 49th, the start of our 49th vintage, but it's special to us in that we've always stayed true to the style. So never any oak, never any mallow in our Chenin Blanc. We've already picked the Chenin. We picked it, I think it came in last week, so I don't even have that to share with you today. We picked it as early as mid-August, even late July, I think, one crazy year. But we're always picking a week or so before a lot of our neighbors in that area, because Tim wants to keep the beautiful natural acidity of that varietal intact. He wants it to have acidic integrity that is unique to this varietal and is easily missed by a lot of domestic Chenin Blancs, we think. So hopefully you're finding that essence of the varietal that wants you to take another drink when you try our Chenin Blanc. And it's that acidity that not only gives it some freshness, but we found recently also allows this wine to age with significant grace. It's a varietal. Joe Jr. joined us a couple years ago at a special event we were doing here in Healdsburg at a restaurant that we're very proud of. It was the fastest to reach 3 Michelin stars in the history of that rating guide. And we let their Somme, it's a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and they were pairing our library wines with their amazing food, kind of Japanese influenced California cuisine. And we thought they'd pick some of our, heavy hitter old cabs and Zins that age with some grace as well. But 2 of the wines he picked were the Chenin Blanc from 1990 and I think an old Gewürztraminer from the late 80s that we used to do late harvest. But the Chenin Blanc was amazing, and with decades in the bottle, still held up. I wouldn't advise you, that's not something we really build this wine for every day. It's really meant for, early enjoyable consumption. And I think, I always got a kick out of, all the data that's available to us today. I think the average bottle in our price point now for the whites, that around $15 full markup, is consumed within about 2 hours of purchase. And so I always think like, wow, that somebody's drinking that in the parking lot then, if that's the average. And, but, these are really built for early consumption. And we even harvest them a little earlier, as mentioned. But they will age with some grace if forced. They can handle it.
And John, if I can interrupt,
Sure.
We were talking about this earlier with Kim. The fact that typical Americans, I don't think have an appreciation or understanding of what the Loire style French Chenin Blanc has a potential of being, what the grape itself has a potential of being, because so many Chenins made here in the States were that, early 1970s, 80s style Chenin, where it was inexpensive. You could load it up with the vines up with water, and the grapes are just huge. And they're just, if they're not treated well, just make a massive amount. Where in Loire, you have certain regions that make nothing but Chenin and make it in 8 different styles. And just the quality that this Dry Creek Chenin is just blows away almost every Chenin domestically made that I've tasted.
And there's a lot of great out there. I think I was another. You're gonna. I get whenever I see Joe, I'm always reminded how many great meals we've had together, Joe, because you brought up another memory I have of when we were eating in at Joe the crab Joe Stone Crab there in Chicago, and they had a bottle on the list. This was a few years back of the Clos de Papillon from the Beaumard family, and that was an early inspiration. In fact, we've done internship exchanges with the Beaumard family. They were an early influence. Kim, our owner now, has a relationship with the 3rd or 4th or 5th generation Beaumard that runs the winery, and they are just a true testament, though, to how versatile that grape is too. And we really look to them and others as an inspiration. But, of course, we're making Chenin, and what you have in the glass now is a California version of it. So we're never going to have that, as much acidity maybe as they do. But hopefully you'll find there's enough in there to really make it stand out as a California version of that style of Chenin Blanc.
And then another cool thing is Kim mentioned is that this is 2nd generation family vineyard owner that you guys have been doing business with.
The Wilsons own this vineyard. This is their home ranch. So it's the Wilson Ranch Vineyard that we've been farming from for, I think, 34 years now, consecutively. And almost all the fruit comes from this one contiguous vineyard. And it's a special relationship that's continued, as Joe said, on to the 2nd generation of both them as our grower and us as the winery. So it's a great story as well to see them keep that property in their family, and for us to be able to continue to buy it is a real treat, because it allows us to make wine in this style. The Chenin, unless I'm not seeing the chat thing, Joe, so you'll have to ask me questions if you have them. Because as I'm sure.
Yeah, at this point, you're all good. I will keep an eye on that, John, but we have no discussions yet. I've got one just thanking everybody coming in and letting them know if they have any questions to throw it in that chat. I will keep an eye on that for you.
The beautiful part as we get back here into kind of our valley, let me see here. Oh, this was kind of cool too here. Hold on one sec. The beautiful part of our valley, though, is we can grow varietals, of this nature, where here in our valley. Let me see if I can get that and share this again. So where we're at, we can grow cooler grapes. So the Fumé Blanc I mentioned, but Sauvignon Blanc grows here as well. These are 3 different varietals of Sauvignon Blanc: Sauvignon Muscat, Sauvignon, which is a clone of the varietal, and the more traditional clones, Sauvignon Gris is there as well. But where we are, this is the Russian River Valley where we get some fruit, but where we are here in this part of our valley, you'll see this a lot of days, especially right now in September on. This blanket of fog, no, despite what you've been reading, that's not smoke, it's just fog about our valley. But this is fog that rolls in almost every day during harvest and keeps the lower third of our valley particularly suitable for cooler climate varietals like Sauvignon Blanc and cooler climate Zin, which we'll taste today as well. And this is special. It's that diurnal swing of Dry Creek Valley that makes it such a special place and a lot of the North Coast part of California here. So we're about 70 miles north of San Francisco here in Dry Creek Valley, but the lower third of our valley is actually in climate zone 1, which is the same as Russian River Valley, famous for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and makes it possible for us to grow this Sauvignon, grapes like Sauvignon Blanc. And so the next wine you have in your glass is the Fumé Blanc, or in your kit that we should try is the Fumé Blanc. This is from the 2019 vintage, and it is the other wine besides Chenin that we've been making from the beginning. But how it's possible to make here is this fog. And it's the diurnal swing, the difference in between day and nighttime temperatures that makes, that is made possible by this fog, that makes these cooler climate varietals possible where we are situated. A lot of times when you read about kind of the overall valley of where we're located, Dry Creek Valley, it's often described as a warmer region. And that is certainly true just north of where we are. The winery sits on Lambert Bridge Road, which is that designated break of the fog line. And as a result, the difference, the delineation between climate zone 1 and climate zone 2. And even if you get up even higher, it gets closer to climate zone 3 temps, where our Bordeaux varietals and some of our Zin are grown. But down here, where the winery is in the south of us, all the way down to Russian River, it's more like this. And that's a Chenin Blanc vineyard. And speaking of great dinners, you know, I know it's, we don't ever like to talk about politics, but this is far back enough. I think we have a Republican and a Democrat represented here, Ford and Carter, 2 dinners that they did featuring the Sauvignon Blanc at White House dinners that we found recently that we thought was cool to share. So this wine has a storied past and history, but hasn't changed as much as a lot have. But it's the Sauvignon Blanc that we grow here, different varietals as well. So you'll see the Sauvignon Gris over on my left as I'm looking at it. I'm not sure if it's the same for you. That doesn't look like it's Sauvignon Blanc, but it is. And Sauvignon Muscat and the traditional clone 1 of Sauvignon Blanc that we grow here in the valley for that varietal. In this vineyard, as well as those right behind the winery, which are the oldest Sauvignon Blanc vineyards first planted in our region. And I'll get back to that in a minute. But Sauvignon Blanc for us has been called 2 things, Fumé Blanc and Sauvignon Blanc. So oftentimes people will ask us, why do you call your one of your most popular Sauvignon Blanc Fumé Blanc? And that's what's in the glass hopefully now for you. Well, that is a nod to the Loire Valley for us, as mentioned. Mondavi coined the term in Napa. We were the first to use the term here in Sonoma. But it means more than just a marketing term to help describe dry Sauvignon Blanc for us. That nod to the Loire Valley is something we've always believed in and always practiced in this wine that you have in the glass. So never has our Fumé Blanc had any malolactic or oak influence. It's always been stainless steel fermented. And this is important for us. An important distinction. There are other Fumé Blancs out there on the market, and many of them have a kind of morphed into oak-aged versions of the varietal, which we don't think is, the Loire kind of influence. We don't think that's the best way to showcase this wine's historical roots for us, and that is a nod to this more pure style. So no oak, no mallow, grown in the cooler regions of our valley and down in Russian River Valley as well is where we grow this. Even though this is our most popular wine, represents, I think a little more than a third of our total production is this one wine that we call Fumé Blanc. It's still mostly estate, mostly comes from our own vineyards. That was a result of the second generation's focus on getting better and building on the great traditions that Kim's dad started, but not resting on our laurels. So when they took over, Kim and Don had about over half of their vineyard holdings were located outside of Dry Creek Valley or Russian River Valley, and now none of them are. So we have that long-term lease with the Wilson Ranch that I mentioned, but everything else is right here in Dry Creek Valley or just south of us in Russian River Valley, where we grow a cool climate Sauvignon Blanc, and a little bit of Chardonnay. And this is made possible for us to control our own fruit sources. And what they kind of saw on the horizon was a need to get a lot bigger to compete or a lot smaller to really get back to our roots and control our own destiny. Thankfully, they chose the latter, and hopefully what you'll find in the glass is testament to the fact that we control our own destiny and our own vineyard sources. And in challenging vineyards like the one we're in right now, it's especially helpful to really know your own vineyards intimately, and to have crews that can get out there at a moment's notice and handle any situations that might arise. And this has proven to be the biggest probably impact in our huge jump in quality in the last decade has been from just controlling our own fruit sources and honoring the long-term relationships we have with a few of the growers. So the next wine I think we have for you is the Heritage Vine Zin. So if you want to move on to that, I'll try to get through as many of those.
Interrupt you again, because I'm so good at it, and I apologize all. But can I harass you? You all have these beautiful little bottles, 2-ounce bottles. The labels are reproduced in laser printer quality. Hopefully you can see it, but can you talk a little bit to the label change in the new vintage?
Oh, yeah.
19.
No. Yeah, thank you. So that is a result of our, we have nothing to hide philosophy and no compromises philosophy here at the winery. And it's a testament to really kind of showing you everything you need and then some right up on the front label. So the modified label it really follows the footsteps of the other wines, the Chenin Blanc and the Cabernet, and even the Mariner, with all of the varietals right up front and most of the technical winemaking data right up front. The one addition we made to the Fumé this year, Joe Jr., to answer your question more thoroughly, is the addition of the wellness information on there. So especially to younger buyers, what we're finding is, yes, they do need to know that this wine is gluten-free and vegan, and that's important to a lot of people now, more so than ever. So we've gotten a lot of really good positive feedback about putting everything we know about the wine right up front in the tech data, that infographic style of label you're seeing. Probably kind of hard to read, on that little 2-ounce bottle, but next time you get a chance in your store or in your restaurant, get a chance to look at it, please do, because it's really informative, and we're amazingly proud of it. So this is something you're going to see continue, a sneak peek in the upcoming vintage of Heritage Vine Zin as well. We'll mimic that infographic label, keep the imagery up front, but put all of that data right below it as well for you and your customers. I'm going to taste a little Zen here. Let me see if this works, if I can get into that. So Zen for us was the one thing that was planted, you know, in the valley when Dave set up shop. But like when the second generation took over, knew they needed to make some changes though to keep that tradition going. So the Heritage Vine Zen for you is a wine named after a propagation technique. So we're fortunate to have access to some of the oldest vine and most special vineyards in the world, really, right here in Dry Creek Valley. It's the largest concentration of old vine Zen plantings on the planet. And this is one of them you're looking at here. I have one behind me too, somewhere. But the old vine vineyards are fantastic, and they're really kind of, they're American icons. Like the stories these vines could tell, what they've lived through for the last 100+ years is amazing. And we wanted to pay tribute to that and keep that tradition going. So Don, the second generation, part of the second generation here, Kim's husband, started a propagation technique where he took budwood from these old cuttings and grafted them onto new rootstock. This technique is not uncommon today, this tea budding, but was more so back, especially from old vine vineyards, back in the late 80s and early 90s when Don started doing it. It was a labor of love, a preservation technique that churned into the wine that's in your glass now. So all of our vineyards, if possible, are done with this propagation technique. And it was important back then, especially because a lot of the historic vineyards that were getting ripped up, the first one was the Mazzoni Ranch, were not available. Those clones were not available from the nurseries here locally that were kind of controlled by UC Davis, our fantastic research facility here up in near the town of Sacramento here in California. But they were really focused with Zen for larger production wineries, and white Zen still had its influence on this varietal, for better or for worse at the time. And that's not what we were trying to do. So these old vine clones were really saved in our valley because of this propagation technique. And today you'll see vineyards that we have, let's see, like, not that one. Let's see if I can find another one here. But that all of our vineyards are made with that propagation technique in mind. And some of them are even head pruned dry farm field blends, like you would have seen back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. A real true throwback style of planting a vineyard that hardly anybody is doing. When you drive up to the winery now, the old vine vineyard that you see out front is actually not that old. It's only about 12 years old. It's not even a teenager yet, you know, and it is a site that was used, planted with this propagation technique, and it's proved amazingly effective. Its first vintage, I think it got 93 points. It was only like 4 years old. But beyond that, it's proved more drought resistant, because when you plant a vineyard without irrigation, its root systems dive deeper into the ground and are more drought resistant, which is always a problem, an issue for us here in Dry Creek Valley. And so this propagation technique has served more than one purpose for us. But really, it's also a throwback to how we make wine. And hopefully what you'll find in the glass with that old vine is that it's not that over the top, you know, definitely not syrupy sweet, but not that kind of hit you over the head bombastic type of Zen. What Tim's going for here is a testament to this propagation technique, which takes advantage of the characteristics of these old vine clones, but also where we grow them. So that fog that you saw affect our Sauvignon Blanc or make it possible for us to grow Sauvignon Blanc also gives us the ability to grow cooler climate Zen. And it's not just us. Within a stone's throw of where I'm sitting, joining you here from today, I could hit Raffinelli, Ridge, Sagacio, Mole right over the hill. The largest, the Sainis, who I think we're going to see some of their fruit come in today, some of their Sauvignon Blanc fruit that we get come in today. But these historic families and sites and growers, it's no mistake that they're all right here within 1 square mile of where we sit, because it's the best place for cool climate Zin. So most of the Zin in your glass comes from right here in southern Dry Creek, or actually a little bit even from Russian River. So it's cooler climate Zin affected by that fog. So we never get that blistering heat. We never get those grapes that kind of bust open sometimes, or get up to 27, 28 bricks that can make port if you're not careful. These, yeah, we pick a little earlier than our neighbor as a result, but we don't always have to, because Mother Nature has given us that diurnal swing, that cooler climate, to make Zin that can show a spice and nuance and acidity and freshness, in addition to those things that everybody knows Zin is famous for, which is that high fruit content. But what you might find in the glass also, it's a testament to where this is grown, is blue fruit versus black fruit. So it's more blueberry, even some pomegranate we'll see shine through in this wine from year to year. So this is a testament to that cooler climate style, and then some tannic backbone that should finish this wine in a drier style than what you might be used to. That is the cooler climate nature here that lets tannins compete hand in hand with sugars, but also the fact that there's about 20% Petit Syrah in the blend, and that gives Tim some good tannic integrity and backbone to let this wine not just be a Zin lover's wine, but a wine lover's Zin. And
speaking of,
I think I just coined a term there, Joe.
And we got it on recording proof.
Yeah.
And we have, I think we have Tim on
awesome.
in the house.
Oh, great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That'll probably help here.
All right.
Then you can maybe highlight him.
Fantastic. Yes, I'm going to scroll right over to him. Oh, there's that good-looking lad from the cellar. Welcome, Tim. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. How are you, Joe?
Fantastic. It is awesome to see you out there, and it looks like the air is nice and clear, which is even better.
Better, yeah, definitely.
So what do you have? You have some fruit coming in today, Tim?
I was hoping to be showing you. We do, and I was hoping to be showing that to you right now, and I'm going to switch the camera right here, but you can see the truck hasn't arrived yet. Say hi, Ashley and Darren. So Ashley and Darren over there are leaf sorters. They're going to be sorting out leaves that might get through. And this is kind of what harvest is like. You make all these plans, and then it doesn't always unfold the way you thought it was going to.
Absolutely. Well, I think we all know that from the year 2020, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
So what will you have coming in today, Tim?
So it's some Sauvignon Blanc, and I think I hear the truck, so it might be pulling onto the scale right now. But yeah, we've got some fruit coming from Saini Vineyard, which is just maybe about a mile south of us here. Always some of our best Sauvignon Blanc, and definitely a candidate for the Dry Creek Valley Sauvignon Blanc bottling. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this fruit today. It's really kind of at its peak right now, and we're fortunate to just really get it at the peak of its flavor right now.
Awesome. Fantastic.
And
well,
so
why don't we do this? Why don't we leave you on here? You can turn off your video if you want, and then we'll come back to you after we do the Cabernet next wine. Does that work?
Sounds good. Sure.
Awesome. We'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
All right. So now we will shoot back to John Jackson.
All right. Yeah. And if he chimes in, just tell me to shut up.
You got it. I'm good at that.
So Cabernet is next, and Cabernet is something we have always done at the winery, but to be honest, was never great really until the last 10, 15 years. It was always very good, but never great. The commitment that Kim and her husband made to the winery that Tim might share a little bit with us as well, started in the vineyards and also involved the new crush that he's standing on. But it wasn't just the quality of the vineyard, and our vineyard sources is where they are, and that the reshuffling of our vineyard holdings to include more Dry Creek property was especially impactful on Cabernet, because the vineyards that they were able to acquire were up in the western hills of our valley that produce what we think is some of the best Cabernet, rivals the best of Alexander Valley or Napa Valley in the North Coast. And it's these high altitude iron-rich soils that make that possible. And so where we are in Dry Creek Valley is very diverse. Let me see if I have a map for you, but it is a tremendously diverse region that we are really proud of, can do a lot of different things. And it's this topographical diversity that makes it possible. But what you're looking at here is Cabernet fruit. You can tell from a higher elevation. And some of these vineyards were up above the fog line. This is our Endeavor vineyard here, right over near Ridges, Lytton Springs, and the famous, you may have heard of it, Puma Springs, which is a biodynamic vineyard that is on the other side of us. But this is a site that the second generation developed primarily for Cabernet and for Petit Verdot. But we grow all 5 Bordeaux varietals now in the last decade as well. And a lot of them are on these higher elevation iron-rich soils. And that is important because it gives us a little diversity in soil type to pull from. And it grows a very distinctive style of Cabernet. There's a minerality to our Cabernets that hopefully you'll find there in the glass. And it gives them a little bit more concentration up at these altitudes and these steeper soils, steeper vineyards in these rocky soils, stresses the vine just enough to get really good concentration. So we're up here at 800, 900 feet elevation, similar to what you'll see over in Napa, like Howell Mountain or Atlas Peak, and what we have here that's a little different though is our proximity to the Pacific Ocean. So a little bit more typicity, a little bit more old world style will show through, but we're still significantly warmer and more concentrated and more volcanic than where the Cabernet grown in like Lake or Mendocino counties comes from. So I think it's a great kind of halfway point between what you'd think of those cooler climate Lake County Cabernets that are kind of more closer on our price point, but the stylistic departure, they're definitely a little bit more green, sometimes stemmy in a tough vintage, but what we get more here is minerality, but a lot more typicity and old world Bordeaux kind of influence than do our friends over on the other side of the Mayacamas Mountains in Napa. And it's this commitment to getting fruit from these more challenging sites that's really made the difference in our cab. Our winemaker, Tim, likes to call this ranch, this is the Vogensen Ranch we're looking at here, extreme winemaking, because they're hard to get up to, they're hard to harvest, but they give you great results, great wine and good vintages. Let me see if I have one more here. No, I don't, sorry. Thought I had one more. But this Cabernet is really a testament to that commitment. And then Tim's style of winemaking, he came to us with Napa Valley experience and in Cabernet, and that's where he cut his teeth on Cab. He was really excited to kind of bring the cabs up to the level that he thought our Sauvignon Blanc and Chenin Blanc and Zin were already at, and I think he's done that. We do this competitive tasting every year, or every 5 years or so, excuse me, with our fellow class of 72 members. So class of 72, the year we got started was kind of a famous year, and you'll see articles on it. So it was us and Clos d'Oval, both Stags Leap restarted that year, Camus, Silver Oak, some heavy hitters, mostly Napa, mostly Cabernet driven. And when we used to get together for our anniversary tastings with our historical peers from that class, it was always kind of difficult because the only varietal that we all made was Cabernet. And that was the one that the press always wanted to taste with that group. And recently, though, it's been really eye-opening that our cabs have held up in that tasting. And I did a little comparison not that long ago of how we stood up. And we were the second, and when we did this with our 17 vintage, which I think is what you have in the glass right now, we were the second highest rated cab amongst those peers, but obviously significantly cheaper. I think the ones that beat us were Diamond Creek and Camus. It was their special selection. Both had, I think they were 92 and 93 were their highest rated wines from major publications, and we were 91. But a little bit difference in price. So Dry Creek was $225 a bottle. Camus was $175, and we're about $29. So, oh, looks like we have fruit.
We do. So we're getting ready to start the first.
So just so everybody knows, Tim is on his cell phone in a not great cell zone. So we're getting the video, but he might be a little spotty there. So please forgive us.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the action in just a second here, but I think I mentioned before, this is always some really nice fruit. This is actually, they have two blocks at Saini. This is the second block, block 29, one that we've been getting since 2011, and really always has this really nice combination of sort of passion fruit and lemongrass kind of flavors, and some good acidity as well. And we're getting ready to go here.
So that's Brian there, Tim's assistant, our assistant winemaker. Tim, this is Dry Creek Valley then, AVA?
Yes, yeah, just down the road from us.
And we're still getting some of that like climate zone 1 cooler climate effect in that vineyard?
Yes, absolutely. And this is a block that's right down next to the creek. It's really good soil for Sauvignon Blanc, and nice cool spot. And
this crush pad that we're seeing you work from here, after you came on board, you did some upgrades to what to our when you have a winery that's been around 50 years, you kind of piecemeal things together sometimes. So I think Tim was really excited to get this piece of equipment added.
Yeah, I'm going to pan over here. The big piece of it was this stemmer that I'm focusing on right here. I told Tim if we can replace that, our old destemmer, with this newer, more gentle equipment, we're going to take a big leap forward in wine quality. And not just the destemmer, but the must pump too. It's a much gentler must pump as well. And then we have this conveyor that I'm showing right here that gives us some sorting ability, and that's what we're doing right now, is looking for leaves. But when you look at this fruit here, there's not a whole lot of leaves in there. They've done a really good job in the vineyard of giving us some really clean fruit. The other important aspect of the new crush pad design is, I don't know if you can kind of see down there near the bottom of the picture, but there's you see the juice sort of cascading down, and there's a sump down there. What this means is we can get most of the pre-run juice right off, right here as we're dumping the fruit, and it doesn't ever have to see the press. And so we can get some really remarkably high yields overall, because we get a lot of nice clean juice up front before we hit the press, and then we just have to do a very gentle press cycle to finish extraction, and it really makes some beautiful wine.
Why is that? You talked a lot about like the gentle press, why that's important in treating this grape, with a deft touch. Why is that important with Sauvignon Blanc?
Well, in general, we want to, with all the fruit, we want to not beat it up too much. We want to have it fairly pristine. you know, sometimes with Sauvignon Blanc, we actually like machine harvesting in some cases because we want some skin contact. So that's a little bit of a point of difference, but this is hand harvested fruit today. And, you know, in general with the reds, especially because we're putting the skins into the fermenter with the juice, we really want some nice gentle handling of that. And with the reds and even with the whites, what we minimize is extraction from the skins if we're not beating them up too much. And that means that we have better tannins in the reds and not so phenolic in the whites. So it's less astringent in the whites.
Great. What's your overall philosophy with Sauvignon Blanc, Tim?
Well, we really want to just keep it fresh. It's such an aromatic grape that we don't want to do too much to get in the way of it. So, you know, as you know, the Fumé Blanc is all stainless steel fermentation at cool temperatures. So no oak and no malolactic. And in general, with our Sauvignon Blanc, we don't do ML with any of it. And then the Dry Creek Valley Sauvignon Blanc, we do a little bit of barrel fermentation, but we figured out through some experimentation over a number of years that we didn't want to use very much in the way of new oak. We pretty much wanted to stick with older oak barrels, but even more importantly, a lot of acacia wood barrels and a little bit of chestnut wood barrels. It's a very different flavor profile from oak, and the acacia in particular gives a very nice sort of floral quality after a few months aging there, but it doesn't impart a toastiness and a woodiness that new oak would do.
Ah, interesting. And how has this harvest been? We know 2020 has been a crazy year, but and you know, there might be some questions there on harvest from our group, but how was it looking kind of before the situation with the fires that we had?
Yeah, in general, the take was that it looked like the Sauvignon Blanc crop was going to be light, and we haven't brought in a whole lot yet, but it's been sort of a mixed bag. Some of the vineyards picked out light, very light, in fact. We had one vineyard that we picked that just was, you know, almost, there was almost no fruit on the vine. And then we had another that almost set a record for crop size. So it's, so far anyway, it's kind of around across the board. But in general, kind of even for Zin and the Bordeaux Reds, the consensus has been, you know, maybe a little bit under average. But you know, you never really find out.
And it seemed like a pretty even year as far as temperatures are concerned, and up until, you know, we had like one little late heat spike, but it seemed like a pretty amazing vintage going into the beginning of harvest here in terms of, you know, there weren't a lot of crazy events with variances in temperature.
Yeah, we actually had early bud break and, you know, kind of thought it would be an early harvest, but then we got some pretty cool weather along the way. And so it's really kind of slowed down the ripening. We did have a heat spike, you know, just, you know, somewhere in August. I forget the exact date. It was probably about mid-August. And then it cooled off. And so, you know, sugars have really been coming up overall pretty slowly, unless a vineyard has an unusually light crop. But that's the only case where they've been really spiking.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing your bringing in of that Saini fruit today. We appreciate it.
Tim, I have to say, when we were thinking about this, the crazy idea of being able to broadcast Harvest 2020 from around the world, everyone thought I was insane. I was like, there's no better opportunity. Typically, you guys aren't able to make it to Chicago for our fall tasting because of this. Now we can bring us there. So this is just a little bit of a busy time for you. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to take us through the first of the fruit at 2020.
Yeah, you're welcome, and you're right. I didn't know if this was going to work either, but I'm glad it has, and we can share, you know, some good action with you guys.
Awesome.
And, yeah.
Thanks, Tim.
It's been a little crazy year, but we're hanging in there.
Awesome. You're the best. Thank you, Tim.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tim. That was fantastic.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I'll No, that was fun. I'm glad it kind of worked and we could hear him. He's literally just on the other side of the wall from me right here. But the difference in internet with these this old concrete cellar is we found a spot for him this morning, I think, where we tried to get it working. I think for the most part it did. So.
Oh, it's perfect. And I love that he didn't move. And I kept wanting to say, Tim, can we look inside of the hopper? But I was like, nope, he can't move. The internet's perfect.
Yeah, we tried it a couple times, and every time he moved, he had like 3-foot radius. Like Sarah was gonna like draw a ring for him. Like you basically can't go outside of the circle, or we'll lose you. So
we had my mom was broadcasting from Glunz Family Winery out in Paso, and she was in the tasting room, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna walk people around." And as soon as she left the tasting room, Matt's like, "Oh no, she's gonna lose the internet."
Here we go.
And sure enough, boom.
Yeah, no, I know, and you know from when I'm talking to you or Dan or anybody there or anybody on the Glunz sales team, when you guys call me here, we have bad Wi-Fi in general. So our cell coverage as well. So it's not only that, there's 0 cell coverage out there. So we couldn't also just do it from a phone. So I'm glad it worked. So that was cool. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I think we have one more wine to taste as well.
Yes, we got the Mariner, baby.
Cool. So the Mariner is the hallmark of all of those efforts that we talked about with the Cabernet taking on a bigger role for us here at the winery with the second generation's improvements and enhancements. And Mariner for us is a testament to all those efforts, but really one vineyard as well. So this is Petit Verdot and Cabernet primarily from the Endeavor vineyard that I showed you a little bit earlier. And this soil type right here, you can kind of see how it's different. I think you can see that, guys. Can't you? A little bit. My soil types in the background. You can see the variance in colors of the soil. So this is the valley floor over here. In the middle, we have the benchland, but it's up in the higher hills on the east and the west that we get this iron-rich, more volcanic influenced soil here. That is what really makes our Cabernet special and gives it that not only minerality, but a sanguine character as well sometimes. So it makes our Cabernet-based wines, including the Mariner, great with like iron-rich meats as a result, if you're ever looking for like perfect pairings. And the soil type also, as I mentioned, stresses it. But Mariner is also important because Tim, right to my left, you can't see it. Maybe you can. I'm going to try this. Let me know if it kind of works. Oh, did I? I'm going to try this and see. I might do some. Right over there, you can see the big barrels behind the double size barrels. Those are Mariner. You can kind of maybe see, it's hard to get perspective, but behind that wall of barrels that I'm joining you from are some larger barrels, and he'll use those to do some hand punch downs with the Mariner and our higher end wines. So the Mariner is not only from those special vineyards that we talked about, but it's also the best lots from the best vineyards any given year. We don't always make Mariner every vintage, but when we do, Tim wants it to be the best lots from our highest elevation, most stressed vines typically, and he'll give them kind of a little extra special treatment in terms of hand punch downs in those double-sized barrels to really start working fermentation early and get chewy tannins more well integrated into the wines. He'll also co-ferment some of these batches with a Petit Verdot that comes out of the same vineyard to give the wine some added structure and depth and give it some accessibility still, even in its youth. And as a result of that, he'll also let this wine age in mostly newer French oak barrels for about another year compared to our cab. So we're at the very end of our cab release, and the Mariner is just released, the 17 Mariner, as a result. So Was there a question that I saw pop up on the chat, Joe?
Sorry, just realizing I'm still on mute. There were a couple of things that had popped up here. What were the flowers and plants between the vines there? I think you were showing the old vines in, and I think that was mustard.
Yeah. Mustard greens in that Beeson Ranch. One of the many things we grow, alfalfa. We let vineyards go totally fallow as well, and plant them to wheat sometimes. But in between the vines, those are all testaments to the family's dedication to sacrifice. But in between the vines, what you were looking at is cover crops. So part of our sustainability is we're growing in between vines vegetation that will help the vines stay in balance. It'll attract beneficial insects and pull a little bit of the energy out of the earth to keep the vines in balance. And it cuts down on the use of the need for pesticides and herbicides as a result of attracting beneficial insects. So in all of our vineyards, you'll see those cover crops. You'll see it insectary gardens in most of our vineyards too. Another a way that we add on to the to attracting the beneficial insects. And also we'll do, in addition to that, we have bat boxes and raptor perches in all of the sites.
And then, John, one of the other things that I love was hanging out. It's always a good story hanging out with Don Wallace, but we were up at the vineyard, and you've got that huge pond in the middle. And he was talking about how the fact that he was, that was basically a dead pond. It was just a water retention area. And when they bought the property, and a couple of his buddies had decided, or he had reached out to, that were in biological and water as a profession. And they reached out to him and said, well, you just got to catch your balance. You got to stop putting stuff in there to kill it and instead feed it. And actually bringing that up. And it was wild. While we were there, they had tons of different birds coming in and actually catching fish. And it's just like swarms of these wild birds just coming in there. Swan.
Right. Like we planned that for your visit, Joe. we had those brought in, but it is a site. I think this is the site you're talking about, Joe. Yep. That's our Endeavor Vineyard. And he found out from a friend of his who was an expert on creating these type of ecosystems, that it was a little bug that was getting into the filter. And he said, you don't have to take anything out or add any chemicals. He just added another microorganism that occurs naturally that balanced out the pond, and it just came to life. And so it is teeming with fish now, and provides us then a beautiful source of runoff water that we capture and reuse to keep this kind of one closed circuit ecosystem. There's goats and the adjacent property and we'll do alternative crops, and so we don't have kind of a monoculture as well. And all of these things that we think we all need to do to keep our land in balance and healthy, for the next generation. But we're doing all of those things as far as sustainability was kind of what you were getting at a little bit too, from cover crops to fish habitat restoration on the actual dry creek right behind us. We do the bird boxes and bat houses and owl perches, insectary gardens, and we do beekeeping here, and we're solar powered, primarily solar powered here at the winery, and we make our own honey and olive oil now as a result as well on property. So
I keep getting promised that I'll be able to taste those when it's.
I saw it actually in a package today, Joe. So I've seen the bees obviously and the olive trees, but they actually have it in a package. So
we do have a question for you, John. What is the origin of the nautical connection with Dry Creek?
The nautical connection is the family's other passion. So not fancy sailing, but sailing has always been something that the family has done here in the Bay Area. But where they were from, they still, Tim's dad included, this is the first year, I think, Kim said in 30 years that they're not going back to Maine for the summer. So they traditionally will spend 3 generations of the family go back to Maine each summer, and they have 2 little sailboats. One's called Fumé Blanc, I believe, and they have always sailed. That early passion led to sponsorships with the America's Cup locally here. Believe it or not, landlocked Sonoma State University had a sailing team, and the guy who started it ended up being the captain of the America's Cup later on in life. And so that set in motion a relationship with the America's Cup. But it really was something that Kim started putting on the Fumé Blanc when she was getting involved in the winery, because they thought it also kind of helped tell the story of adventure and exploration. And if you'll notice on each of the labels, it might be a little bit hard, with those small ones, but the coloring, the artists that we use as a local artist for all of them, all kind of depict what Kim sees as the story that wine tells. So I call it the dark and stormy label for the Zin. You'll notice, I think really it's those purple and burgundy influences and darker themed colors that helped kind of tell the story of that wine. And so the color palettes also kind of tell the fruit characteristic story of each of the wines. The Fumé Blanc, you'll notice, has some greens and yellows as well. So it's and it's really kind of what we're known for now. When Kim likes to tell the story sometimes, when I was interviewing for the job a few years back, she said, well, what would you do if this was your winery? And I said, well, have you ever thought about taking not using the sailboats and not calling the Sauvignon Blanc Fumé Blanc? And she said, well, as long as I'm alive, that will never happen. I'm like, okay, well, I have other ideas, thankfully, too. But when I started doing a little research outside of the industry, when I asked people, hey, what do you think about Dry Creek Valley? Almost everybody, this is just, friends of mine outside of the industry, almost everybody said, oh, the Fumé Blanc with the sailboat on the label. So it's really part of our brand identity at this point now, too, that I think a lot of, we don't ever really like to say brands, we like to say winery first, but just, we are a brand, and a lot of people would kill to have that, something that people know and associate you with that's positive. And so I think we'll always have some sort of nautical theme as a result of that, the family's other passion, but really just kind of what people think of, when they think of Dry Creek. People know us for that as well.
Awesome.
But, Joe, I've gone over my time a little bit, I see. So I did want to finish by thanking you and your team there for just how proud we are that you've done so well with these tastings, and we've stolen your idea and used it in other markets as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's the best form of flattery, right? Is
absolutely
thievery, and I just wanted you to know, Joe, and your team, how great they've been, and to allow me to connect with Kate and Mike and Liz and your customers. There is something that we miss and we cherish, and it's how we tell our stories. So to be able to do it here via this method through you is something we appreciate. So.
Well, thanks for going along with my crazy ideas.
Yeah.
And flattery is definitely getting people to take your idea and run with it. And unfortunately, these 2-ounce bottles, we used to get them in glass, and now we can only get them in plastic because the glass are sold out. They've been selling.
Crazy, right? Yeah, we're down to our last 80, I think. So
yeah, unfortunately, the even crazier thing is that the glass comes from, I think, Indonesia or something. The plastic is made right here in the U.S. And
really?
Yeah, it's a PET plastic. It's a very high-end pharmaceutical based or pharmaceutical grade plastic, and the foam on the inside is what makes it kind of expensive, but it's almost 3 times more expensive than the glass.
I know, it's crazy, right?
It makes 0 sense.
I'll connect with you after. We did find another source, so through our actual bottler here in Sonoma, our glass bottler, and so I'll have Sarah share that with you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys as well, John. You guys have been an early adapter for us and with us, and it's been fun doing our first blitz with you guys on this platform, and then now taking it to our fall tasting. You guys would not have been the same without you guys. So thank you for that. Any questions, Mike, Kate, Liz, or Audrey? All right, fantastic. Well, you can always shoot those over to me, and I'll get them over to John Doxson. You will be receiving an email. You guys, all the participants will be getting special pricing today. As you guys know from previous ones, we have really special pricing that is going to be case one only for you guys for all the wines we tasted. It'll be available all day today and tomorrow. And one of my favorite things is you ask, how do you get that pricing? And it's really easy. You can talk to your sales rep, or you can just pop onto DSD Link, which is our brand new online ordering platform, which is super exciting because it's really easy. It's either via web or it's through an app, which you can just download from the Apple iTunes. And if you scan that, I'll send it to you tomorrow in an email announcing our winners, as well as having a full sheet of the pricing, which you'll also get today. But then you can download that. And if you haven't used it yet, we've had dozens of our customers already jump on it the first day. It is really user-friendly. And they warned us as soon as we went there to watch out for the fact that it is not the easiest thing for customers to go onto. We've had one customer ask, can I get a copy of an invoice? He shreds them. And that was the only question. He just needed the latest invoice number and total dollar amount. He pays COD and he shreds his invoices. I didn't ask any questions, but he jumped right on and placed an order for a special with Glunz Family Winery that day. So that was fun. But all the special pricing is already connected to your account and ready to go. I did also want to share one other fabulous screenshot here, and that is of the coming virtual tasting hall attendees. Of course, we had Glunz Family Winery and Wine Hooligans. Dry Creek, of course, on Wednesday. We're going to take a break on Monday for the holiday, Tuesday, because everybody needs a break from the break. And then on Wednesday, we're going to go to Raptor Ridge from Oregon. Then we're going to head to Châteauneuf-du-Pape in the Rhone Valley in France. And I understand that we are going to get another harvest shot there from Brody, one of our new Châteauneuf-Rhone producers. Amazing, really great stuff. Really good price points. And then we go to Italy to Barolo, and we're going to get some Brunellos in there, then down to southern France, back into Italy, down to Uruguay. So it's going to be really cool. But lots of fun things here at the tasting hall, and we hope to see you guys front and center tasting with us as we travel around the world in February. In September. We actually are planning our grand tasting. Sadly, our grand tasting in January has been officially pulled to be a virtual event. Unfortunately, in the nice cold weather, we are pretty certain that there were a couple people that had the early symptoms of international travel COVID that came through our thing. We're not going to blame all the Spaniards, but anyways, it was it was definitely something we do not want to put anybody in harm's way, and hopefully this will go well enough off that we'll be able to do that. But John, thanks for doing the harvest shot. Thank Tim.
Yeah, I'll thank him. Thank you again, and thank you guys for joining us and learning a little bit more about Dry Creek. It was our pleasure.
All right, bye. Thanks, all.
Take care.